Alright, so I'm probably a little late to the party since I've been at work all day while these spoilers were coming out, but I genuinely couldn't not cover these spoilers because this chapter is genuinely insane and one of my favorites of part 2 so far, to be honest. Genuinely though, you guys might need to start referring to me as Mystic TF Anime because from day one, I've been saying that my boy Kawaki is pulling up to this battle. Like before the point of we even knew that Boruto was going to be fighting Jura, I've been saying Kawaki will show up and will show us what he's going to be capable of without limiters. And literally as these spoilers were coming out, I was reading it page by page like every 5 minutes because that's kind of how it worked. And I just knew from the very start that I started to see Boruto get cooked, I just knew Kawaki is on his way. There's no need to worry. But the way Kawaki pulled up, oh my lord, genuinely when you see the chapter review or the panel, again, you can just go look on Twitter if you really want to see it, it was just too cold. And I've been saying this, Kawaki without power is just like a little brat who thinks he's 10 times bigger than he actually is because his character suits being the strongest. Because when he actually holds the title of the strongest, it's just straight aura leaking from the pages every single panel. Like I felt a little aura go through my veins after seeing that rod go straight through Jura's eyes. Like genuinely, it got me a little bit giddy. But I need to chill out with the glazing real quick and go over what actually went down in this chapter. And to be clear, this is not a chapter review. I will not be going in depth on anything in particular. I just want to give my initial reaction and thoughts to you guys, and I'll save all that kind of deep juicy stuff for the chapter review, which I hope should come out on the same day as the chapter is released, which is the 19th if you didn't know. So if you want to see that as soon as it drops, be sure to subscribe so YouTube knows to recommend you my content in the future, which obviously is going to be the chapter review. Anyways, first thing I want to go over is how Boruto once again was genuinely kind of holding his own against Jura. Like I was completely shocked when I saw Boruto chop off Jura's foot like that. It just fully caught me off guard. I really wasn't ready for something like that to happen. The only real problem for him was running out of stamina, which is what I was kind of thinking the whole time would be his downfall, because you can only spam flying Raijin so much without actually hurting Jura before you just run out of chakra. And that's what we saw. Boruto became too tired and Jura, being Jura, saw that and took advantage of it. But I also liked how Ikemoto was showing Jura like fully going all out. You could see clearly every single one of Jura's attacks against Boruto had full one-shot killing intent. Like he was not messing around. And Boruto knew that damn well and was not letting himself get hit by this either, which is why he had to spam flying Raijin so many times, because he was caught in positions where if he didn't use it, he was just getting one tapped. I'm gonna be so for real. But obviously eventually he runs out of stamina and Jura manages to land a decent blow which literally knocks Boruto unconscious, which again, that's kind of crazy. I'd be so annoyed if I was Boruto because I've dodged every single one of this guy's attacks. I've literally outmaneuvered him, I've hit him with abilities, I've done everything I can, and this guy just needs to land one blow and I'm already cooked. That's a little bit too far if you ask me. And because Boruto is on the floor unconscious, Jura does his signature move and starts to build up a Biju bomb out of his eye, ready to just blast Boruto to pieces. And it was close, it was very close to going off, but my boy Kawaki ain't about to let that slide and puts a rod through the back of Jura's skull through his bloody eye. As I said earlier, genuinely one of the best moments for this character. It was actually just too cold. And can I also make something clear that Jura genuinely didn't even see Kawaki coming here, which to me either implies that Jura can't sense Kawaki like he can with Boruto when Kawaki shrinks himself down, or Limitless Kawaki is just that busted that he was able to fully speed blitz Jura without him even being able to react. I mean, either way, Kawaki stocks are just an all-time high right now, which is so overdue. Because it was about damn time that Kawaki genuinely caught his first dub, as since 2B Vortex, it was looking kind of rough. Like, if I'm a diehard Kawaki fan, I almost would have dropped the series. Luckily, I'm not, but it was rough. Anyways, moving on, I want to go over how does 10 Directions even work, because this chapter has completely shaken up how I kind of understood this jutsu. So previously, I was under the assumption that whenever Kashin Koji wanted to look into the future or see different timelines, he could just use 10 directions at will. And this may still be the case, but what we saw in this chapter was that it looks like Kashin Koji actually had no control over 10 directions, and he's just randomly shown future timelines at what he calls the update, which is where he gets to see what's to come in their current timeline, or maybe just all future timelines. It's kind of unclear what actually happens here. But as you can probably tell, this is just super confusing, because previously it was worded as if Kashin Koji could see tons of future timelines at once, which then gave him a different probability of things occurring. Like for example, if Boruto died in 8 out of 10 timelines, timelines that Kashinkoji saw, then he just narrows it down to a 20% survival rate of Boruto, which again just made it a numbers game for him, which allowed him to kind of manipulate things in their best favor. But what we saw here was Kashinkoji literally getting taken over, where his eyes rolled into the back of his head whilst this update came out. And Kashinkoji said himself this update differs from the one 6 days ago, which to me implies that the update is generally relatively consistent with what's going to occur in the future, meaning something must have changed, which again, I don't entirely understand, because how do things just change with an ability that allows him to see all possible futures? And I guess the explanation we are going for here is Boruto himself alters fate, which we have seen before with Momoshiki's future sight ability, which does apparently differ from 10 directions. But regardless, Boruto is the boy who is able to change fate itself, which is why he was able to alter the timelines that Kashinkoji saw, which to me doesn't make complete sense, since Boruto didn't do anything out of the ordinary here. He didn't fight fate itself like he did against Momoshiki from being taken over after Ada did omnipotence. He literally just went and had a conversation with Kawaki. That to me is not a massively fate altering sort of interaction, but perhaps instead is something to do with the points of singularity, where we know Boruto obviously became one after finding out the knowledge about the future that Kashinkoji tells him. But because a point of singularity has gone and made another point of singularity, perhaps that's where there starts being differences in the timelines of 10 directions. Obviously, as we know, the more people know about the future, the more 10 directions becomes obsolete. So perhaps that is also the route that they're going to try and go down, but there really just wasn't much explanation as to what was actually happening here. And I feel like we do need to get a little bit more clarity on how this ability works or what has actually gone down here. Regardless, like I said earlier, I don't want to go too deep into these ideas, as I will save that for the chapter review itself, but these are all things that we definitely need to think about. And it's clear that this ability definitely isn't as simple or doesn't work anywhere near what we had previously imagined. And I do want to go quickly over Boruto going behind Kashinkoji's back here, which Koji does actually say to himself that he's aware that Boruto must be doing things without him knowing. Again, another seed being planted for these guys to eventually fall apart, where I can definitely see a future where Kashinkoji refuses to entrust Boruto with being a point of singularity anymore due to his actions in these moments opposing the ideals of Kashinkoji. There have been so many instances in recent chapters where these guys are arguing, or it's being brought up that they aren't entirely cooperating, so genuinely don't be surprised if Boruto loses his strongest ally in the future, which could be a good way of removing this completely busted power, which I stand by needing to be removed somewhere in the future. But at least there are things beginning to happen that make this Shinjutsu start to not look like some godlike power where there's no flaws to it. As the number one saying in the Naruto franchise goes, every jutsu has a drawback no matter how strong it may look. Anyways, moving on to Delta, Konohama and Mitsuki, I think it's clear that we are going back to a sort of split perspective where these guys are going towards Shinki and maybe even Delta escorts them back to Konoha to revive Moegi. Meaning that most likely with Kawaki now on the battlefield, clearly at least catching Jura off guard and putting him on the defensive for the time being, they now have a timer where they can leave and revive the trees, which also allows us to finally see what happens when someone is brought back from that state, which I think is a very exciting reveal, which may be slightly overlooked by some people, as there's many theories as to what's actually going to happen to people like Moegi or Shinki after they are brought back to life. But finally, I want to go over the battlefield itself to discuss what I think is about to go down between these two and obviously Boruto. Now, it may seem like Kawaki is stronger than Jura in the couple blows that they traded, and Kawaki is now going into his Karma form, which is going to make him much stronger than his base, obviously, but at the same time, Kawaki simply can't be stronger than Jura. I know Kashinkoji hasn't seen this exact situation before, but he has seen the power of Limitless Kawaki because he told Boruto that Limitless Kawaki is very strong. And if it were to be stronger than Jura, then Kashinkoji's top priority, as soon as these guys awakened, would literally be get those limiters of Kawaki and get him to fight Jura. So don't get me wrong, I think Kawaki can definitely force Jura to retreat here, but don't expect him to kill Jura by any means. And I think the idea of Jura's true power that he kind of leaked against Himawari could be what gives him the edge against Kawaki here. But I think it's very safe to assume that Jura definitely will not die here. But it's clear from the way that Jura has been set up, even if he were to lose here, his thirst for knowledge and power will only lead him to grow much stronger, which will then force Boruto and Kawaki to then level up their game for the next time they encounter. And I think in a recent interview with Ikemoto, he literally stated that Jura is capable or literally going to get stronger and stronger the more the series progresses, which makes sense with how he is written and also the current circumstances. But the final point, which kind of links to the last one, is Borushiki. Kawaki warned Boruto at the end of the chapter that after activating his karma, if Boruto's manifests and he loses control, Kawaki will not hesitate to kill Boruto, which I now believe he will genuinely be able to do. So the question is, will Momoshiki actually take over? And I think the answer will most likely be yes. He has been far too quiet, but also too much of a menace despite being off screen for the whole of Two Blue Vortex, to not be broadcasted as such an obvious setup for his return. And I would genuinely be surprised if he doesn't at least partially take over Boruto, because I think one of two things will happen. One being Momoshiki will try to take over Boruto whilst this battle ensues, but a separate battle will literally be Boruto fighting Momoshiki to stop him taking over his conscience. Or the option I think is more likely is Momoshiki takes over and then is trying to fight both of these guys, where he's trying to kill Jura because Jura obviously wants to kill Boruto and their goals kind of overlap, which means that they can't both exist at the same time. And then he wants to subdue Kawaki by either like knocking him out or whatever, so we can then use Kawaki to harvest the god tree, which is his obvious plan. Again, don't want to go too in depth into what's going to happen beyond this, but that's just a little teaser of what's going to happen in the chapter review, which I will literally begin working on as soon as this video is done. But again, it's just something I want you guys to think about in the meantime. But with that all said, that is going to be a wrap for this video, and I think I went over most of what I wanted to go over, so hopefully you guys enjoyed. And if you did, then dropping a like helps this video get pushed out to more and more people, and it lets me know that you guys are enjoying the content at the moment. And if you do want to see more content like this and let YouTube know that that's what you want to be recommended, then make sure to subscribe, as you guys will get recommended that big old chapter review coming in a couple days. And also just want to quickly thank you guys for the support on my return back to YouTube, as it's genuinely been amazing so far, and I hope we can keep up this momentum. But with that all said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.